Every year in the garden really is an experiment in self-sufficiency. I try to push myself harder to grow more food, and every year I try to incorporate more staples into my garden. Staples like grains and beans tend to be something that's fairly cheap to buy in bulk and store for long periods of time. But most people stick to veggies in a garden because vegetables are seasonal and tend to be a little more expensive than grains. You'll also never get a store-bought veggie that tastes quite like a garden-grown veggie. But grains aren't like that. You could grow your own grains and they wouldn't be that much different from what you get at a store. The difference is you aren't going to be able to grow already ground bread flour or cornmeal. If you grow those yourself, you'll have to process them in some way to be able to use them, and often it's easier to just buy flour or rice or cornmeal at a store than to try to grow your own and process it. But my goal is to be self-sufficient, not make everything easier. I want to grow the foods that give me the most energy so I can make the most of my garden space. Not that I won't still grow vegetables, but I'd like to devote more space to the staple crops. We'll see how it goes this season. In this video, I'll let you follow my crops and watch them progress and eventually find out if my hard work paid off.
This is the second time I've seen this forecast of smoke. I had never seen this in my life, ever, before in a forecast. And in the last few years, it's become kind of common in the summertime. And you can see that although it's not really cloudy, there's a haze in the sky. And I think this might be smoke, but mostly you just can't see very far up into the sky. And there's this very dim orange sunlight coming in. If we didn't have the smoke, it would be full blast sunlight.
Corn starts are planted out, the garlic is coming in strong, and the peppers are planted out but still waiting for warmer weather to arrive. This is a planting of popcorn. I have plans for growing most of my popcorn supply for this year in this 4x25 foot bed. They don't look like much now, but they'll start growing faster soon. Sometimes I like to go to a store and find seeds for the garden. People don't always think of it, but many of the foods we eat are seeds. And though they're food, they can still be planted even if they come from a grocery store. This season I found some condiment beans at an Italian grocery store in Tampa. They were so big and substantial I decided to try to grow them in my garden this season. So my videos of this season will be showing the progress of that little experiment. So I soaked some of the seeds in the plastic bag from the grocery store. In a few days they'd sprouted, or rather a few of them sprouted, but it was enough to plant out a few bean towers.
So this is all the ones that didn't germinate. So very few of these beans were viable.
The cargamentos started putting out roots in a couple of days, so I collected them up and planted the sprouted ones out. I also planted out some other pole beans I'd gotten seeds from a donation from Baker Creek Seeds. These were a couple lima bean varieties and a regular dry pole bean called mabombo. All I need is more varieties to have to save the seeds of. Within a week or so, they were up and leafed out. This bed between the garlic and brassicas is sweet corn. I like to leave the beds in open soil until the plants get established and grow a little. Then I mulch them. This is the other section of my garden behind Sky House, but adjacent to the garden behind my house. Here are some tomatoes in cages just getting going, a bed of Abenaki Calais flint corn, a bed of onions, another bed of corn, this time sweet corn, and finally a bed of carrots. I netted the honeyberry bushes, which seem to double in size every season. And once the 1st of June comes, I stop harvesting asparagus and let its shoots grow to their heart's content. They really take over this whole area. Most of my tomatoes I'm planting outside of the electric netting this season. They tend not to get eaten too much and so don't need the protection. This is a little bed just behind my house. I'm planting out a few different heirloom varieties to save their seeds.
They're all starting to really kick in now. been planted for a couple weeks now, so they're finally getting good roots and taking hold. And in the last couple of days with this rain that we got, they've just kind of at least doubled in size.
After a dry spell earlier in spring, the rains came and I got my beds mulched, so everything went into overdrive. It was a lot easier not having to water, and having the mulch down meant a lot less weeding despite the rain. Cabbage and cauliflower are flourishing. And the peas are thriving and producing tons of pods. I'm really looking forward to the harvest. The rains also watered in the corn, and they've really started taking off with the lengthening days. And these are those cargamento beans that I started sprouting. They're now starting to climb up these trellises. They did get chewed on by rabbits for a little while. There's a rabbit getting in here. And then some of these are limas. I don't remember which ones are limas. I think these ones are probably limas here. There's another one in here. These might be limas as well. And then these are the cargamento ones again. I have white and red cargamentos. The peas are doing well, but they're also overgrowing some golden beets I maybe planted a little too close. As I said, there was a rabbit getting in here, and it started going for the carrot tops, so I had to cover them with row cover like this to keep the rabbits out. And I think they've recovered since then. Some of this other stuff, like these are getting nibbled on by something. I don't know if it's deer or rabbits, but they kind of been set back. This specific variety must have really sweet stalks or something. One of the staples I'm growing is a flower corn. This season I'm growing out seed of the dent corn called Abenaki Calais Flint. I've grown it in the past and saved seed from it, so I had a backstock to plant out this season. Some of my backstock of canned foods are running low, so I'm also growing to refill my stocks. This bed of peppers will be producing one or actually two ingredients in my salsa, sweet peppers and hot peppers. I recently used my last jar of salsa. I've been eating off several dozen cans for a couple years, but one day I used up a can of salsa only to look for another and find I'd used up the last one. So this season my plan is to replenish my backstock. Then there's a large bed of onions, mostly storage onions I started from seed, but also some onion sets of non-storage onions. These will be better to use right away in the salsa. You can see now I've gotten all my beds well mulched with either wheat straw or soy chaff. The soy chaff is a new mulch I'm trying out this year. Just in a couple of weeks after I've stopped harvesting this asparagus, it's pretty much fully grown in. It's got little flowers on it. It's taken over. Here's the bed of tomatoes outside of the fencing. And they're also kind of taken off now that the weather's gotten warmer and more humid. It's a small variety called Santorini. Italian variety, obviously. I just desuckered these a couple of days ago, and it looks like all the suckers have regrown in just a couple days. It's time to harvest the peas. These snow peas are producing abundantly, so much that my fridge is packed with gallon bags of them. I wish they froze better because I'd love to be able to store them long term. Unfortunately, all my attempts to freeze them have turned out poor, with them ending up deflated, dry, and fibrous, despite following directions for blanching and freezing. Maybe there are better freezing varieties I should be growing. If you have any tips or suggestions, let me know in the comment section. So the cherry tree, this is a pie cherry or a sour cherry, is loaded this year. And they all look perfect, and they're huge. They're much bigger than previous years. I feel like they're twice as big as they usually are. So, yeah. But I'm gonna pick these and try to find a use for them. I don't always find a good use for them because they taste like cough syrup or remind me of cough syrup. And they're not sweet cherries, so they need to be sweetened because they're very tart. But they are one of the few fruits that like grows really well here and produces like crazy. And then you can see the birds aren't even interested in them. I don't know why. I guess they're too tart. I think what I'll try to use the cherries for this year will be as a tart sauce, like a tamarind chutney, only using the cherries in place of tamarind fruit, which I can't grow here. I've also used tart local fruits instead of tamarind for the sweet and sour sauce used in pad thai. Really, any kind of sour culinary application, you can replace whatever sour fruit is used and probably get away with it. I remember first coming upon this concept when I was eating at a Himalayan restaurant in Wisconsin, and their samosas came with a cranberry chutney in place of tamarind. It was delicious. So getting back to the smoke day that I was referring to at the beginning of this video, I recently watched a video that appeared in my YouTube feed, and it was about these wildfires happening in the US and Canada, and it was called Meteorologist Explains Why There is Constantly Wildfire Smoke Coming from Canada. So at no point in the video was climate change mentioned or the conditions that are causing the wildfires. It was just as if these massive wildfires stretching across Canada and the US were normal. So this newscaster asks the meteorologists, what's going on in Canada and why can't they get a handle on it? They go on to explain that the wildfires are just so bad because they aren't putting enough resources into fighting the fires. This is one that I never would have thought of. But the bigger question they neglect to ask is, why are the forests so easy to burn now, such that the entire boreal forest region is like a tinderbox? He actually says, US folks are like Canada, get your fires under control. As if Canada is to blame for these wildfires, and if it's just a matter of not doing enough to fight the fires. Not that the fires are unprecedented because of the conditions. And this is a meteorologist saying this stuff. Like, he says that areas of Canada are incredibly remote, so it's hard to get fire crews there. That's his explanation for why the fires are so bad, because Canada is remote. How is this something that's changed in the past 5 to 7 years? You know, they do admit that the fires have gotten worse in the US in the last 5 to 7 years. But, like, what does that have to do with inability to fight the fires? If anything, these areas were actually more remote in the past, so they've gotten less remote, and the technology for firefighting has gotten much better. So it's amazing to me that a meteorologist can be asked to explain these wildfires and the smoke that's happening, you know, that's now a new phenomenon for people in this continent. As I said at the beginning of this this video, that only in the last few years have these smoke days been a thing. You know, that we wake up in the morning and you can't see the sun because there's smoke from wildfires that are thousands of miles away. That's a new thing. It's never happened before. And so that, you know, the meteorologist is asked to explain this, and they don't say, oh, this is because of climate change. Basically, these regions have become much more warmer. Disease has spread to them. It's killed massive tracts of land, of trees and forests, and there's all this dead trees, these dead trees. So this dead fuel is just sitting there waiting for lightning to strike and light it on fire and start these fires. So it doesn't have anything to do with an inability to fight the fires. It doesn't have anything to do with Canada not putting enough resources into fighting fires. This is actually caused by the US because we're the ones who are doing the most damage as far as climate change. We're the ones emitting the most greenhouse gases and have been throughout history. So like for the US to be like, hey, we're having to deal with this smoke now, do something about it. It's your fault. It's like, wow, I can't believe it. You can't make this shit up. And the fact that some media source is spreading this bullshit and blaming Canada for not fighting their fires enough is just beyond my understanding. That someone who's supposed to be trained in like at least in climatology and understand climate change is trying to blame this on firefighting. Anyways, so thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe and share the video. And thanks to all the patrons who contribute to this channel. And I'll keep pumping these out. I've got quite a few videos from this season, and I'm got them all mostly edited. So I'm hoping to just like pump them out from now on for a little while until we're done with the season. Thanks to my current patrons for supporting this channel, and as always, give a thumbs up to the video and subscribe if you aren't already a subscriber, and click to get notifications. And we'll see you next time.